Hello, welcome to episode 2 of Back Office Hours by e-commerce thinking. I'm Luke and I'm joined by the reluctant YouTuber Andy Slater. In this week's episode, we are going to focus on a technique or a methodology called visual service design. We're going to start with a brief intro to visual service design. Then we're going to move into a real world example that you can pick up and emulate and copy in your own business. And then we'll close with a example from a business that has done it across its entire operation. So to start with, what is visual service design? Well, at its core, visual service design is the technique of tying together, or the craft of tying together, the human, digital, and physical components of your business. And it's a really, really effective way of establishing what your operational realities are inside of a business and how to prioritize changes. Andy, when should D2C leaders use visual service design?
I think we've seen it used best whenever a business is considering change in their IT infrastructure, either change or new systems altogether. It really helps identify manual processes and just existing tech stacks.
Yeah, I suppose like whenever you're trying to figure out how to make your business more efficient, we would encourage all leaders to default to visual service design, and you'll see why when we start doing a screen share. So, Andy, what tools should people be using to do visual service design inside their own businesses?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of options out there. I think our favorite tends to be whimsical. It's just really easy to use, looks really good, really easy to lay out the systems. There's other options out there. Lucid Chart is a popular one, and the methodology is always the same in these systems. You know, some some people revert to a whiteboard even. So
Cool. All right. Well, and I think just to kind of add to that, I'm often asked like who inside of a business, if it's not you guys, i.e. we do visual service design on behalf of clients. So when we do an audit program, when we're doing advisory, we will actually do this on behalf of teams inside of D2C businesses. And that's always an option. So please do get in touch if you want us to work with you. But if you're looking to take these lessons and actually do them yourself independently inside of your own business, literally anybody can pick up this methodology and follow these techniques and the instructions. If pushed, I would say that it's most closely aligned with like product management, so like digital product management, maybe tech, so a tech leader inside of a business, or like a data lead, or operations. Now, in smaller stage startups, you'll often find that either a founder or one of the founding team, like a senior leader inside of the business, has the most sort of visibility of end-to-end processes, probably because they've had lots of different roles inside of the organization as it's grown. Those people are brilliant for this because they can fast track the discovery process and the capturing of the as is state in the business. Let's come back to that, because when you start to see the demo and the example, it'll start to become much clearer what I mean.
okay, great. So for this example, we just wanted to do something really simple, and we're going to build a visual service design document, which is a product management process. So we're imagining here that you're an e-commerce business, you manage your product data in something like Excel, and you've got Shopify as your e-commerce system, and then Deer Systems as your WMS or stock management system. So on screen at the moment, we've got a pretty blank, whimsical board, and the systems laid out just in a simple box.
And also, we're going to make links available inside of our community. You can find the links below the video to like a template where you can download this base template or duplicate it. And the key in the top left, excuse me, is really important. is it lays out the different parts of the visual service design methodology, really. So on the left hand side of the key, at the top left, you've got a load of arrows, and each one's got a word in between. Now, those words relate to a business process or a specific event that is required inside of a D2C brand. It's like an operational process. So you'll see things like product, you'll see things like suppliers and inventory. This is not a categorical, like complete list. It can change, and it does change from business to business because everyone has their own like little nuanced processes, but it's a great base to start from. On the right hand side, you'll see there is a dotted line and a solid line. Now, that's really important because that intimates whether a process that we're mapping out inside of this visual systems architecture, this VSA as we call it, whether a process moves between different systems and different people through either manual processing or automated processing, where two systems can talk to each other or they're made to talk to each other through like an integration or a middleware. You've then got two separate ones called inputs and outputs. Fairly straightforward. Like you've got a box where an action starts and then a event happens at the other side, and that's your output. Example would be customer places order on website, and eventually, after a series of processes, goods are shipped out of the warehouse at the other side, and that's the output. And then you'll also see like a little emoji, and this is an alert. And this one's really important as well. And it's probably best to just, Andy, to show you as and when an alert is required inside of the document. So we'll come back to that in a minute.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'll be easier when we bring this to life. So if I zoom out, what I'm going to do is just align some of these boxes. If we take these over to this side, effectively, as mentioned before, data starts in Excel and it's going to end up in Shopify and Deer, and these are products. So we're going to start by copying an input. Everything tends to start with an input. Okay, so that is our starting point. And then what we've got is we're going to join that into the product management spreadsheet. But because that's a manual process, we're going to change that to a dashed line. And that matches the key over here. Okay.
And just whilst you're writing that in, Andy, it's probably worth saying that like product management processes and the creation of products do tend to be more complex than this inside of a D2C brand. We're not saying that this is the most comprehensive example. We're using it for the purposes of teaching people how to use Whimsical and how to start to adopt visual service design. So it's a bit of an entry level example. If you just try and hypothesize for a minute with us, you would have the team or teams responsible for the creation of products in ideation through to enrichment of product data, etc., all inside of the same meeting, whether that's face to face or over Zoom. And you would be asking them a series of questions to explain who does what, where, and when in the product creation and product management process. So, like, the perfect accompaniment to these diagrams is the format of who does what, where, when, and why. And you can just ask that to almost every process and every operational person inside of the business, and it will reveal the information that you are then documenting in Whimsical. But we'll keep it simple for the purposes of the video. Back over to you, mate.
Yeah, okay. So all I did then was I copied a couple of these product data type boxes, and I put them in place in the Shopify and Deer systems. So what we're visualizing at the moment is we've got a manual process going into Excel, and then the data that's going to come out of Excel is a product, and the data that is going to go into Shopify and into Deer is also a product. So we're just going to add some more inbound arrows here. So now we want to join these product boxes, and we're going to make those red for product data. And this is a manual process as well. So typically what we're highlighting here is that product data is managed in a spreadsheet, And then there is a manual process of importing that data into Shopify and Deer. Now, typically, that is a CSV file, which is saved in Excel and then imported manually into Shopify and Deer. So that's what this dotted line between the systems indicates. Now, to go one step further and highlight the fact that this is a manual process, I'm going to drop in a little alert emoji. So with this, we can highlight that basically at this point and this point, there are manual processes that could be optimized.
Also, with the alert emoji, if you want to go one step further, and I like to do this, particularly when we're doing a visual service design exercise across an entire operation, is because it's sometimes quite hard to capture everything and remember it all. Actually, to capture it with a bit more detail and context, is I click on the alert icon and then I hit the comment section, which is in that little bar on the top. And then I write in, okay, what is wrong with this process? Well, it's manual. It's reliant on somebody remembering and then actually actioning the manual CSV import. And I do that across both. And as you'll see in a moment when we show you a sort of full end-to-end operational visual systems architecture or visual service design process, that becomes really, really important to have that kind of like pathway and that sort of record of different issues.
Absolutely. And the great thing with Whimsical is this document can be shared in an interactive format. So um, other groups in the business can take a look at the document, read the comments, follow the flows through the different systems, and get a real understanding of what is going on with different processes.
That's great. Okay, so we've got an example now of a product process that has been captured through, a series of internal interviews, probably like one session with the relevant people around the table. We've captured that their product management process and product creation process could be optimized. Let's now show them how quickly, now you've visualized things and you've interrogated it and analyzed it together. What would the next step be?
The next step would really be to create a target product process, which I've created. What I've done in this one, to highlight the change, is we've still got the product create update process, the manual process on the left side, but then we've changed the product management system from Excel to an online product which is called Airtable. Airtable is just like a spreadsheet with lots of extra functionality. We did a different video explaining that last week, so you can check that out.
Yeah, episode 1 is all about no code, and Airtable is the main focus. So go check out episode 1 if you want to learn more.
And from there, if we just zoom out again, I mean, apart from the change to Airtable, you see that the target systems are still the same, Shopify and Deer. But what we've done is we've changed the dotted line to a solid line, and we've introduced an integration element to the product data management. And in this case, we've highlighted it as being make.com. And again, make.com was highlighted in episode 1. It's a real simple integration tool that can automate the product data from the source, in this case, Airtable, to the destinations, which in this case, Shopify and Deer. So effectively, in 2 diagrams here, we've got the existing process, which involves manual steps, manual work to get the data from source into destination, and a target process, which involves a change from Excel to Airtable, but it should eliminate any manual steps in getting the data into the target systems.
And it's hard to overstate how big an impact working in this way can have inside of an e-commerce business. Like I think for a long time we just underestimated it and assumed everyone was working in this way. The feedback that we've had from brands who've started to adopt this way of capturing their existing processes and then capturing like or designing changes is that when they work like this, it enables non-technical colleagues to actually understand at a really, really good level what they're doing and how it could be improved. And I think that's a key thing. Often, like processors, technology, it's like siloed off with specialists. What visual systems or visual service design enables you to do is crack that open and include the wider organization. And genuinely, the more people that are integrated into this process, the better the outputs are going to be, because ultimately you're going to be able to gauge what you should and shouldn't prioritize. So using this example, this is like a really, really zoomed in look at visual service design where you're just picking one particular process. Andy, do you want to just slide over to your other tab on your browser and show us the more comprehensive, like end-to-end operational visual service design?
Sure, sure. This is a more complicated diagram, but it's one that encompasses more processes, more systems. It's a complete finished diagram for an existing e-commerce business that's maybe turning over between 25, 30 million pounds, and they've got a lot of legacy processes and systems in the mix.
Yeah, and if you just sort of just zoom around a bit, you'll see in the top of the diagram that there's quite a large concentration of manual processes around purchase ordering and goods in and transfer orders. And again, we can make these bases available to people inside of the community. But what this brings to life is how important it is to do the entire operation so that you get one view of all processes inside of your business in a single map. And very, very few businesses, particularly startups you work in, have ever done this. And it's not because they can't be bothered, it's because they've never had a framework and a sort of tutorial to follow. Hence why we're recording this video. Obviously, that one single diagram can be a bit overwhelming, particularly for non-technical colleagues. So if you just slide over towards the right on the board, Andy, you'll notice that we've separated it out into like per processes. So if you keep going, you'll see that in very similar way to what Andy was showing us before in the zoomed in example, this is a zooming in of each of the individual processes, and we've broken it down like that so that it is more accessible across the business. As a bit of an outro for everyone watching, again, in the community, we're making these bases available. Just sign up in the member area. You're going to be able to see tech stack examples or tech stack templates, I think they're called, inside of the community. Go there, you'll find some whimsical bases that you can duplicate and work from. That includes the key and gives you a little bit of a starting point, so you're not starting from zero, which is great. We're obviously keen to hear any questions or comments, so please do come to us below, and we'll be keen to hear your thoughts, ideas, challenges even. And then I suppose finally, we really do encourage people to pick this up and experiment with it. Like get a couple of your colleagues together, start working in a Whimsical or a Miro and see whether you get value from the tutorial. We're confident that you will. And if you then think, oh, actually, we really want to work with somebody to help us do this and do it across the entire business, check out the audit program. Like, obviously, this is a bit of a sales pitch, but like, check out the audit program. Visual service design is a fundamental part of that whole program where you're auditing your existing requirements, auditing your existing processes, and you're saying, right, what do we need to do next and in what order? So thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back next week with another installment of Back Office Hours. It's hard to overstate how big an impact working in this way can have inside of an e-commerce business. The feedback that we've had from brands is that when they work like this, it enables non-technical colleagues to actually understand what they're doing and how it could be improved.